happy Monday. It is Mom Bod Monday, which means we're talking about something relevant to you and your bod. And today it's very relevant because we are going to be talking to one of my friends, Tina Singh. Hello, there she is, who is an occupational therapist, and she's going to be talking to us about our work from and how we can rejig those to prevent pain and injury. Hi.
Hi.
How are you?
How's it going?
Good. We've never talked live before.
Never talked live. Everything we do is through the gram.
I know, as is all of life these days.
It is all of life these days. That's true. That's how I talk to anyone these days.
I know.
Good. Dealing with the pandemic life. I mean, 3 kids at home doing online learning,
I
same
know
shit
exactly
today.
the same. I literally just shoved them all upstairs. I was like, don't make a noise.
Gave them all the video games and screens. Go.
I'm on the fence, honestly. I was saying on my stories this morning, and I saw you were having a rough Monday as well. And it's so heavy in the world. Like, everything feels so heavy right now. And I go between just saying, like, forget it, we're not doing any more. Like, we're just going to do our own thing. And then realizing that would make all of the school stuff like my responsibility. And then potentially cause more conflict.
Yeah. See, this is the thing. Like, I never wanted to be a homeschooling mom ever. Like, it's not on my list of things I wanted to do. And I'm not a homeschooling mom, but this is pretty much as close as I'm going to get to being a homeschooling mom. And I'm not for it. Like, I was not designed to be a teacher of young children.
No. And what's bananas, and this total like sidebar, is I have realized in the last year, when going, like, looking at resources and on social at homeschooling, there's like a serious like fundamentalist Christian community that does homeschooling as like a regular part of
like their thing.
Like, it's
I've always thought twice about people who voluntarily do this. Yeah, like people who voluntarily do this. Like, I have questions. I know some people like really like it because you get everything done in a matter of like 2 hours every day versus the full day of learning. But my kids need more than me. Like, they need more than just looking at my face. Thankfully, my older 2 are independent. But the online kindergarten, I've said it before, I'll say it again, is bullshit. Like, I can't do it.
So exactly. Our youngest is in grade 1, so just a tiny bit older. And it's barely doing much, and the stuff we are trying to cover is just like, it's not coming across on Google Meets the way it's supposed to come across in a classroom. Speaking of which, tell us how old your kids are, who you are, what you do, everything, while everyone's still paying attention.
Okay. So my name is Tina Singh. I'm a digital content creator. I'm an occupational therapist. And most importantly, I'm a mom of 3. So I have 3 boys. The oldest just turned 9 last week. So 9, 7, and 5. So it's a busy household, and my practice has been on hold for kind of like a long time, and I've just been working here and there sporadically and doing like virtual consults and stuff like that. And just very recently, I decided that I needed to share some of that knowledge that I have, that I use with my kids or in my daily life that are related to OT, and share it with everyone as we are stuck at home.
And I've been following you forever and I knew of you through like the mommy blogger community, like 10 years ago or whatever, I guess. Because you're a huge YouTuber. Yeah,
well, not 10 years ago. I've been online for 5 years, but maybe it feels like 10. I feel like I've been here forever. So it's been like
longer than 5 years.
No, like five years. No, the YouTube is like that's like the main thing that I do, and I share like family vlogs there, and I talk all about keto. I do keto. I know that you guys are like all healthy living, so I do keto. That's my thing. And I share all about that, relationships, marriage, all that kind of stuff, family life.
Yeah, totally. Like, really, like a mother to me. You were a motherhood influence in my feed. And then, and local, because we're both kind of, Ontario, Canadian, like Toronto area. But then when you started sharing more of your OT stuff, and I thought, wow, like, I had missed that completely, that was part of your background. So I'm really
excited. Miss it. I never shared it.
I never told anyone.
I never shared it. You know what? It was a whole, anyone who's a healthcare provider, there's so much information that you need to provide publicly to the colleges. And so I worked around some issues. And so now I'm good to share. Before, I was a little bit worried because there's privacy issues, plus I have clients and whatever. So, but I've worked through all that, which is why I took so long to share.
Well, I'm really excited to talk to you. So I don't know if you caught it, for anyone who's listening. If you're from Tina's following and you don't know me, I'm a trainer and coach. I work primarily with moms, sometimes in pregnancy and postpartum, but also through various stages of motherhood. My kids are old too, just like Tina's. So my youngest is 6. and then 11 and almost 14. And so what I focus on a lot is strength and mobility training. But what I think a lot of, even my own clients and myself, like I had a neck spasm last week, which was a little bit of a new pillow, a little bit of emotional stress, and then a little bit of working at a laptop for a year straight, like bringing it over to the sofa, you know, just being kind of like lazy about it and sticking it wherever and not kind of just crossing my fingers. And so I'm really excited to talk to you about work from home setups, because a lot of moms are kind of like cramming in a half an hour here, or, you know, or when you do get time to work, you sit at your computer for like 5 hours straight because you're so behind on everything. So I'm super stoked to get your top tips. So that we can all set ourselves up a little better. And you did share something. I know if you go to Tina's feed, she's been sharing some stuff in Reels and some like practical tips. And I love how practical and like how much we can use the kind of advice that occupational therapists can offer. Could you tell us like quickly, what's the difference between an occupational therapist and other kinds of therapy that we might access for like aches and pains and stuff like that?
Okay, so when we're talking about aches and pains, probably you're talking about an occupational therapist or physio, most likely, right?
Yeah.
So occupational therapy, we focus on function. We focus on helping you maintain or return to your activities of daily living, whether that's productive like your job or, you know, play skills for kids, home setup, whatever it is, right? And so from an occupational therapy perspective, we are looking at setting up for ergonomics. In a physio perspective, you'd be looking at to either, you would also be maintaining that function, but more from like physical movement activities, whereas we're looking at function throughout the home in the space that you're using and adaptive equipment and things like that.
Exactly. So do you have some straight off the cuff, just like top tips that you can give in terms of like work from home setup for most moms?
Yeah. Okay. So work from home setup. Let me just say that moms have been working from home since before this pandemic, right? We're working every second that we can get, especially the ones that are working outside the home and then coming home and working again. So my top tips for working from home, like the number one is that you are not designed to sit for hours and hours at a time at a desk. No matter how great your setup is, we're not designed to sit for that long. And so building in movement breaks into our day, you know, there's little apps you can get that will pop up a little timer that say, get up and take a walk, you know, stuff like that. And just gives you a nice chance to step away, even if it's for a minute. And so if you're working from home, you just walk over to your desk, walk to the kitchen, get some water, you know, good for your health, and go back, right? So my top tip is just working in those movement breaks. And aside from that, I think that there's a couple of key pieces of equipment I think are worth investing in for working from home. I mean, when this pandemic started, which I think a lot more people are working from home, obviously, I don't think we expected it to last this long. So I think a lot of people, a lot of people were just trying to get by. And so they didn't necessarily invest in, you know, proper desk or proper chair and all that. Yeah. But let's just face it, it is what it is. We don't know when we're leaving our houses. So it's a good long-term investment to invest in a couple of things. And so because so many people are working on laptops, one of the top things I recommend is getting an external keyboard. It's worth it. You can get some really cheap on Amazon. And they're a good investment. They last a long time. And doing something like that allows you to put your screen directly in front of your eyes, put it on top of the Amazon box that your keyboard came in. Like, it doesn't need to be fancy, right?
Can I sidebar you for 1 second here?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is something I have known, but I've never worked consistently at a computer for so long. So when I take clients or do lives, I stand up and I preach all the time about varying position. I echo what you're saying from a like from an exercise standpoint or like a maintaining function. Like sometimes it seems like, oh, it's not worth it to stand up and do a stretch for 30 seconds. It 100% is worth it to walk to the kitchen, like go upstairs, throw a load of laundry and whatever it is. But I just got the external keyboard. And the reason was I spilled water on my MacBook keyboard. And when I went to pick it up, he's like, you know, if you raise it up, you won't spill water on the computer.
Yeah. There you go. So you're protecting your equipment because it's a lot cheaper to replace that external keyboard than it is to replace a MacBook, right?
And it's life-changing. It immediately brings your head from here
to straight.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And you want to have your screen like an arm's length away from you, right? Like just imagine your arm, you want it straight in front of you. And some people who use like multiple monitors, your main monitor should be directly in front of your eyes and the other one off to the side, not like split in the middle.
Interesting. Why does that matter? Is there like a reason that it's because I have one in front?
So if it's like this, you're constantly turning your neck one way or another. At least with your main monitor, you're always looking straight. So it's ergonomic positioning, right? And people, Like ergonomics is pretty general. Like, I mean, all people are different, but the way we generally should work is pretty similar, right? So a few tweaks here and there to certain setups, you know, people will do, but just even just raising that monitor up, like I said, get that Amazon box that your keyboard came in and put it on top of that. It doesn't need to be fancy at all. You can get laptop stands.
Yeah.
They're fancy, they cost more, but they do the job, but so does a box. So
I'm going to show you this. Hold on. This is...
See? Okay, what is that on the bottom? Is that a mug?
So I have a giant mug that I turned into like a coin cup, and then I actually have, normally I fold this up and put this even just a little bit higher, because I'm about 5'9" and a half or so.
Me too.
Yeah. I know I can feel when I just get it, that you feel it when you just get it that right 1 inch higher, and all of a sudden you're like, you can do this. We talk about this a lot in daily pop, you know, this kind of chin tuck head ramp. So you get into that right spot, and all of a sudden you can pull your ears back and get that relaxed neck. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's the thing I struggle with. So let's just like another sidebar here. As much as I share like all the tips, I'm not perfect at following these. I will work on the sofa. I will work at my kitchen counter. So this is just good advice. Just like eating greens is good for you. Like, it's advice.
You're not going to do it every single time. Not every meal is going to be spinach and eggs. Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. So, you know, take everything with a grain of salt. We try our best. We try our best to get to the proper positioning. But yeah, it's time. Like, if you're still working from home and you don't have a proper setup, it's time. The other thing that I often say that is a piece of equipment to invest in, which really, really is an investment if you've seen the prices out there, is a good quality office chair. It's really important. And what you want to do is, because there's such a huge range of prices for office chairs, you can get one for $200, you can get one for like $4,000, right? So you want to get the maximum adjustment ability in that chair for your budget, right? No one's saying go buy a $3,000 chair, right?
But what are the pieces that can be adjusted? Like, what are the components? Yeah.
Okay, so the most common is like a back support, or like something that like the back support can be adjusted. But that is an easy fix with a pillow. So that is something there, the back adjustment, and most chairs actually have that. Height adjustment, also important. If you are getting
seat going down and up, basically.
Up and down. Yeah, because you want your knees ideally at 90 degrees. But if you have another sidebar, but if you have a chair that does not go low enough to give you a 90-degree angle, or is too high or something, you use a box or a footrest, right? So a textbook. Yeah, so your feet shouldn't be dangling. And so I use this with my kids a lot. Like, your feet can't be dangling, right? So for the chair, you want to look at height adjustment, back adjustment. If it has armrests, ideally they're adjustable. So if you have armrests, they should be adjustable, because you don't want them like propped up like this, right?
Do you like an armrest chair? Do you like a no armrest chair?
So I've never had a no armrest chair. So I don't know. For me, it depends. So if you're using like a keyboard tray as part of your computer, then I don't like armrests, because they kind of get in the way and they take away from that functional use of the keyboard with your arms kind of propped up. Some armrests also change like side to side, and some of them can swing away depending on the chair you have, right? So I would look at that. I'm looking at height adjustment. I'm looking at backrest adjustment. I'm looking at the armrests. And then some chairs even come with more. Some of them, the seat is called the seat pan adjust. So it goes more forward or more out, because you only want like 2 inches of your leg, like sorry, I'm just saying, like of this part of your leg. Like, the chair should be up to here. It shouldn't be like right up to the edge of your knees, right? Just for circulation and all that. So those adjustments are a little bit harder to find and come at a higher price point.
Almost like a car, like a driver's seat, right? Like tilt, forward, back. So I'm a quick recap. In terms of making purchases, if you're going to be working from home, which we're all going to be, and listen, companies are realizing the profits or like the cost savings of having us all working from home.
Yeah,
so
they will reimburse you.
Going anywhere, even if you are self-employed or not self-employed. So you said get a separate keyboard. I mean, I think this one, including the mouse, was like $60. Plug it in and go, right? So get a separate keyboard. Someone say hi to you. Davis says hi.
Hi, Davis.
And then lift your keyboard up on, or your laptop, or your screen. It doesn't have to be fancy. Just get it up to eye height, have it right in front of you, and then get a chair that has the most adjustments you can afford. And if it doesn't have a ton of adjustments, use pillows, boxes, yoga blocks, etc., to bring yourself to an upright position. Get the knees about 90 degrees. Get the feet resting on something if they can't touch the floor, right?
Exactly.
Okay, I mean, when you break it down that way, it's not that complicated, right? It's like,
It's not. And if you're someone who is, just the one more thing I would add is if you are someone who is often looking at documents and typing, then I would recommend like a document holder that just attaches to your screen. It's like a little clip. So you're not constantly looking down and then looking up.
oh,
I
that's
think
such a
most
great
people are doing
point.
things digitally
Yeah,
right now. So two
yeah.
monitors might work better for that. But for those who are holding documents up, like, I don't know. I don't know who does that, but people who do that.
Well, like, but like, I'm old enough to like remember when that's how work was.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's
Yeah.
like that anymore.
Yeah. But if you need it, it's there.
So a couple questions about standing desks coming in. And how do you feel about standing desks, using them sometimes, all the time, etc.?
So, okay, so I don't know much about standing desks, to be honest. Like I'm in the old school generation of people who just use regular desks. So standing desks, from my understanding, you can stand and you can sit, right? Because they lower all the way down.
They're
So
pretty inexpensive now. Yeah, you can just get the converting ones. Yeah.
Yeah, so if you can sit or stand, then I'm totally behind it, because changing and variation in position is what we talked about, right? Is being able to go from sitting to standing is amazing, right? So you're not in one position all the time. You're not confined to that position. So I would be all for it. I would be all for it.
If you can move positions. And I know that you can get on Amazon fairly highly rated ones for like $150, $200, $250 that will just go up and down on top of your regular desk. So you can do that. I mean, there's probably times in the day when you can't stand, right? I mean, if you're hunkered down over something, maybe not the best time. But if you're doing more like taking a meeting, that's a great time to stand, right? Like when you don't have to be sitting there typing. So that's a nice way to build some variety in. So how about like in terms of eye health? And I don't know if that's something that comes up a lot in your field, but I know that I hear some interesting like ideas about adjusting kind of where we're looking and how to improve eye health when we're working from home.
Okay, so from the OT perspective, looking at it just ergonomically, it would just be the monitor and, arm's length away from you.
Arm's length, okay.
Yeah, and in terms of lighting, you want to make sure your office is properly lit. That's another important thing. I think because this monitor has a backlight there, you often think you don't need light. You do need light. So that's another thing.
Interesting. You know what our parents used to say, like, don't watch the TV in the dark, you're in a room.
Yeah.
I mean, I always
it's true.
I didn't think that was true. Yeah.
No, it is. It is true.
That's interesting. Okay.
It is true. So that, and then also, like we said, taking breaks from the screen, right? Like, so we don't want, like, we tell our kids, like, we're not going to sit here for 5 hours watching the screen. Like, same thing. Taking
an eye break. I know there's a woman called Katie Bowman who she's not in occupational therapy, but always, I know, right? But I literally, same thing for me, Rena. I always thought it was just like, it's fine. She just says, like, look outside and find the furthest thing away that you can focus on for just a minute and just give your eyes that change in like range. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Because your eyes need to focus in, right? So then pupil needs to change, and then so the different things you're looking at different directions, just so you're not looking like this all day.
Yeah.
Look at other things that are further away. It gives your eyes a break.
So I think that sometimes it's like, it's very easy to like get by without these things, and we start to have aches and pains, and then one day we wake up and it's too late. We got to deal with it, right? Like pain is there, injury is there. But what kinds of injuries do you see, or what kinds of pains or like repetitive strain can happen from work from home setup, or like non-ergonomic day after day kind of work?
So every person's like body and setup is a little bit different, right? So some people can work in that non-ergonomic position on the sofa, hunched over, laying down while on the laptop, right? And they'll be fine, right? It really depends on the person. But the long-term strain, you see things like carpal tunnel. You see people who get a lot of migraine headaches from not migraine headaches, but like headaches because of the screen use or being too close. Low back pain is another big one. If you don't have a chair that's like properly adjusted for you, with your feet like flat on the floor or on a surface. So it's really that kind of strain. Then also the neck strain, right? Because if the monitor's not in front of you, like we start looking down like this a lot, right? And we're just used to doing that. After a while, that just becomes our position like this. And I am this kind of person. I'm very quickly learning, going to physio myself because I have a partial tear in one of my tendons in my shoulder. I'm learning a lot about like, okay, it's time to like bring your shoulders back. So I'm learning as I'm going too, but it's a lot of those like low back, neck strain, carpal tunnel. Those are the kind of things we see from like the desk type work.
And if you've got, I would say from a trainer perspective, if you're someone who's already dealing with like rotator cuff issues or back issues, hip problems, pelvic floor problems, etc., knees, even like you said about like where the chair is positioned, and you're not thinking about these alignment things, you're definitely not helping yourself to heal, right? Like you're not gonna, you can, I think I said this morning when I was teasing this, you can do the mobilizing, you can do the strength training, you can go to physio, you can go walk, you can do all the things, but if you're going to spend 23 hours of the day either at your laptop or taking your break on your phone, then eventually it's going to catch up with you.
That's exactly it. You're right. And as I did not do my physio exercises last week, my physio was very quick to tell me that, like, you can't just come here for 40 minutes once a week. You have to do your exercises at home. And I'm like, well, yeah. So,
that's
we're all learning.
That's a good physio who's like,
she's a great physio, actually.
Do your stuff.
Do your exercise. You can't just come here and get me to like release it. I'm like, no, so I have to get better at it.
One other thing that I was wondering about is mom related injuries and like parenting work, the work of parenting, which you mentioned in the beginning of the call and you and I chatted about. But what I do when I work with clients or when we're planning programs through Belly Bootcamp or Mama Reset is like thinking about what kinds of things are moms doing on a regular basis and how do we create options to set yourselves up for better alignment. So that's changing your foot position or whatever it is, right? Do you see as an occupational therapist people coming in with parenting related problems like injuries, things like that?
So because the area we work in is so broad, occupational therapists work everywhere, right? We work in hospitals, schools, workplaces, like we work everywhere. And so the population I worked with was not that population. I worked with acquired brain injury, and I did most of those assessments and treatment and whatever, usually through auto insurance. That's what I was doing. Now, that being said, it's like any other injury. And I can only share from personal experience that I have problems with low back pain. I had 3 kids back to back to back, and lifting those kids and this partial tear, and I think it's from lifting kids, right? Like I think
this is help at least.
That's not going to help. And so, it's the same thing we say about, energy conservation and, in any type of work, right? We're lifting weight directly in front of us, that laundry basket, maybe hold it close to your body, directly in front of you, making sure that you're being as ergonomically positioned as possible, bend your knees, like, all those things. I think all those things are really helpful to remember in our parenting journey, especially when we have young kids and there's a lot of like physical involved, right?
There is,
that stroller, carry the car seat, like trust me, man, I've been there, like the double stroller and the whole thing. Like I remember, like I'm damaged, right? So I know that feeling. It's just remembering that positioning. Here's the problem: as parents, we're really busy, and to be really mindful of what we're doing doesn't always happen because we just need to get this baby out of the car and we just need to get on with our day. So I think my advice for parenting is really just remembering that key positioning, and then also stretching, exercise, make time for that self-care.
Doing things that aren't in your daily routine too. So if your daily routine is heavy with a lot of carrying on the front, for example, with little kids, making sure we're working the back body. That might be getting a little technical, but I think that Tina said a couple of things earlier too that really apply to more stay-at-home parenting or people right now who are maybe doing less work at a laptop but a lot of time with kids, and that is that you want to vary your positioning as much as possible in your mom life, or vary the kinds of activities that you're doing all in a row, right? So for example, if you're someone who has back pain, maybe don't do every single dish in the house for an hour straight and lean over the sink or what have you, right? That variety. And also another thing that you said that I think is a great take-home message from this is like, no one's going to get this right all the time. Listen, I'm a trainer. I hurt my neck last week. You're an occupational therapist. You've got a sore shoulder. Shit happens, and you can't stop doing repetitive things if you have to earn a living and you got a parent. So what the best thing we can do is try to find the moments when we can come out of those postures. Like maybe I have to work at my laptop at a picnic table because my kids are at the playground. But when I'm not, when I can adjust it, when I can get myself in my chair, or I can change my foot position, or I can, control how I'm holding something, then those are the moments where we just kind of like push the needle back the other way a little bit, for lack of a better term.
Yeah, no, totally agree. It's we do the best with what we have and the best with how we can. Not everyone's gonna be able to afford to even buy a $200 office chair, and that is what it is. We do the best with what we have, right? Use cushions, take some of the tips that we talked about today with making sure your feet are not dangling. And if you can, like, it is what it is right now, and be kind to yourself. You're not perfect all the time. It's okay. It's okay.
Exactly.
I tell myself that every day as you see all my laundry. That's not even the half of it. Like, it's all on the ground. Like, yeah.
Every little, it's all day, every little bit counts. Every little bit counts.
Yeah, exactly.
It's coping right now.
This
So
is how
Tina,
we're coping.
you said what's that?
I said that, no, that is it. That's how I'm coping.
It's all coping. I think life as a parent right now is straight up coping. So like, if you feel like you're not coping and you're, or like you're doing better than coping, then good for you. The rest of us are just hanging by our fingernails. If you do you do one-on-one consultation. So for example, if I were to have called you last week and said, oh my God, my neck, I don't know what I'm doing wrong. Are you able to like do a Zoom consult and help people that way?
That's not actually what I do now. So yeah, no, my occupational therapy stuff that I'm sharing, like I'm happy to refer people to people. But me sharing occupational therapy things is me just sharing knowledge on social media. But yeah, no, I don't practice this way. No, I don't practice this way because I do, like, the work I do is just so separate and so different than what I share here. But yeah, there's so many great occupational therapists out there. Like, if you are interested, if you have a child that you feel like needs has a concern with occupational therapy, talk to their school. You can get a referral.
Yes.
You can Google one in your area. That's another thing. A lot of them are able to do in-person visits right now because they're considered an service. So in a lot of areas, they can do the in-person assessments and things like that. But where it's not 100% necessary, they can also offer a Zoom, right? So there will be a lot of occupational therapists in your area that should be able to help you with any specific concerns you have. If you have concerns about like office setup, whatever, Google to find out what people are recommending. Read the reviews of all the pieces that you buy. And like I said, just look for those. Like, if it's for office setup, look for those like maximum points of adjustments of all the pieces that you're buying, right? And that's, I think that's a big tip, like when you're trying to find the right piece of equipment.
So as an occupational therapist, when looking for occupational therapy, is that something that's typically covered by extended healthcare plans too, like physiotherapy?
It depends. So it is. So I know for mine it is. I can't say that every healthcare plan is as good, right? Yeah. But usually it is covered. Usually the initial assessment is covered. It is not covered through OHIP, but for example, if you're a senior, there is ways to get it covered through
your group health, like your corporate group health plan,
or even your community like healthcare, right? As part of they changed all the names because I never worked in that area. I don't even know the names. It's part of the LINs, and it was part of, you can call a number, you can get on a wait list, and it's partially covered by the government services. So if you're a senior or you need that specific, whatever, for example, people who need help with getting a wheelchair, things like that, those services or assistive devices, they all are covered, some through March of Dimes and some through other places.
Interesting. I think what's so interesting about this is that I don't know that occupational therapy gets the same like exposure in terms of like accessing services to help you. Do you like pain management and injury prevention? Like my brain always goes to people go physiotherapy, chiropractic, massage, etc. But there's an interesting like gray area when you leave the physiotherapy clinic and it's not really necessarily applicable to your home, your life, your routines. And that sounds to me like that's where an OT really fits in, and then maybe a coach or someone who's going to help you build the exercise program to go with that. But like,
exactly, right? So that's what we talk about. So I think we're really talking about function in occupational therapy. So for us, we're looking at finding out what is it you want to do every day? What is stopping you from being able to do it? Why is it hard? And so one of those things is you're having neck pain or back pain. We're going to say, okay, what's your home office setup look like? Let me come and do a site visit. Let me come see you, do a home visit. And that's what a lot of occupational therapists do. And so that is the piece sometimes that is missing in the medical model for us, right? Like we try to take a holistic approach to this, right? And so we have a very collaborative team approach, what most OTs do, working with everyone in the community, but just making sure that when it comes to assistive devices or changes in ergonomic things, we like to actually see where you are. And the same thing like in the insurance world, when we do like home assessments, we actually go to the client's home. I don't bring them to a mock kitchen because my kitchen might be completely different than what theirs is, right? So it's actually improving function in their living space or where they're going to use it.
Yeah, which is so practical. Well, thank you so much for taking the time, especially that you don't have this is not for clients, people. Tina just came on here just to share.
I'm just sharing out of goodwill because you know what, honestly, work from home has been hard. If I can give you any tips, I'm happy to do it.
So if you have questions for Tina, go ahead and comment on this live, and Tina and I can keep an eye on it for the next day or two. Tina's got tons of really great content. If you're not already following her, lots of motherhood stuff, as I said, and lately some occupational stuff that I have found really inspiring and helpful too. And like, what's better than an informational reels? I don't know.
Yeah. This is my contribution to society during COVID.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, thanks, Sherry. Thanks, everybody. I think you're going to help a lot of people. And I hope that this helps a few people consider occupational therapy as one of the pieces of their treatment plan. Because I think it is that kind of like bridge between learning out what's wrong in the office of your physio, your diagnostician, your chiro, etc., and then being able to get back to the exercises and the activities and the things that you love with your coach or your trainer. In between is that, what do I do with the rest of the time that I have to be doing work and parenting, etc.
Yeah.
So it's a super.
And if you're interested, I just want to throw in a little quick point there before we wrap up. But if you're interested in occupational therapy, do me a favor, Google what does an occupational therapist do, and look at all the areas that occupational therapists work in. We help kids and developmental stuff and all that. Like there's such a big range of things that we do. So I'd encourage you to learn more that way.
Yeah, and when you mention that, I've had clients who've worked with occupational therapists for their kids for like behavioral or ADHD things or managing, issues with school and stuff. But it never occurred to me in terms of like that mom going to find out she has pelvic floor issues or find out she has a shoulder issue or whatever, and then needing that application at home. So that's a really cool little nugget for today. Well, thanks so much, Tina.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, and send us your questions if you have any more. And otherwise, go follow Tina, and we'll see you next Monday, everybody.
Thank you. Bye.